what would you want me to reveal on a roll of a d20?
Just a juicy detail about the season we haven't heard anything about yet.
Hell yes. Go ahead, roll the d20. Let's let the dice decide.
Hello everyone and welcome to Geek Peek. In today's episode we talk with Brennan Lee Mulligan about Pirates of Leviathan. This is the 6th season of Dimension 20, and in this episode we dive into production, world building, characters, and fan questions. A lot of them. Before we head into it, click the subscribe button to never miss a Geek Peek episode again. And without further ado, enjoy the interview.
On the Facebook group, I got lots of questions, and all of them are so dive deep into the world. So
Incredible.
I had to pick like a few of them. On Twitter, there was like less activity, but B. Dave Walters actually
Oh, incredible!
replied with like a gif of like, I have several questions.
He is so funny, man. I love B. Dave so much.
Yeah, I loved. You had like a one shot with him on D&D Beyond's Twitch. That was so awesome. Like,
Thanks, man.
That was the first time I saw a gameplay of a 20 level character.
Yes. Dude, even the character I made was very powerful, but was honestly less powerful than most 20th level characters because I was trying to make a character that was doing something really weird. Like, if you just make a 20th level wizard, oh man, are you going to be the most powerful character in the world? It's just crazy. Making a character that was like all about picking people up, flying them into the sky, and dropping them. It was very, very silly.
I really like the tone. Like the tone that like it was. There was a feeling like that you knew that you were like you could handle anything he would throw at you. That was like.
It's true. I mean, that's the thing is when you're 20th level, the powers that you have arrayed at your disposal are such that, like, that's the thing too, is like even one 20th level character is still in a lot more trouble than like 6 10th level characters. So I don't know where that confidence comes from, but there's just something about being 20th level. It's just that you're at the apex. There's nowhere else to go from there. So yeah, you do have a little bit of swagger at 20th level for sure.
That's awesome. This new season brings us back to Leviathan, which we were introduced to in sophomore year. I was wondering if you can give like a little overview about, before we dive deep like into characters and like story and all that, what this season is all about.
Pirates of Leviathan is a return to a subsetting within the larger world of Spire that fans of the show really fell in love with. And in our original playthrough, because our intrepid heroes are the bad kids from Fantasy High, were on such an intense quest, we only spent, I think, 4 episodes in Leviathan before they were off to Falinel and beyond, right? But it was a setting that was one of the places there that my attitude towards Leviathan in that original adventure where we first meet it was, this is the first time our characters are leaving Solace, leaving Elmville. So when they get to that first location, it's got to feel like adventure. And I was kind of racking my brain of like, what would be the best location to really be like, you know, you're not home anymore. You're not in Kansas anymore. You're somewhere new and exciting. And came up with this idea of this giant pirate city, both to tie into Fabian's backstory, because Fabian, along with Adine, is kind of one of the 2 characters whose families are most recently not from Solace. Like Riz and Fig and Gorgug and Kristen are all from, their families have been in Solace a little bit longer. So it's like, okay, let's go to Fabian's backstory, because I know we're going to get to Falinel, which is going to be Adine. So we'll do a big pirate thing. come up with a city that's called Leviathan, which is all these shipwrecks lashed together, and the idea of like, what would a pirate society look like, but what would it be if it was on this crazy magical shipwreck island that floated around. And it was so much fun, and we met a lot of characters that quickly got latched onto by the fans. Fans had big reactions. Obviously, they had a huge reaction to Ida Eggfort.
I agree.
To the message. I approve this message. who now like has sort of joined the party and became as she would say, one of the bad kids, a low quality child. But we also met like Gardy O'Brien, we met Alistair Ash, we met Chungle Down Bim, we met these other characters, and the setting itself, we had this amazing map done by Mark Ledgerwood, and we only got to visit a handful of the neighborhoods in it. So when the time came to do another side quest, we sort of had this thing of okay, this will be the first thing we're shooting under remote circumstances, sort of in the age of coronavirus, right? So that being the case, what do we want to do with that being the case? And it's like, one of the nice things about shooting remotely is it's a very easy pitch to players. So you can get people that have been very busy or you haven't been able to get in the past. And then the other element there is, but we want a setting that we feel like we'll have a lot of fun in. And so it came up to being like, okay, because we have this big change where we can't be in the dome anymore, let's add a little bit of familiarity, but do it in a really fun way. And so it was like, what if we just did an adventure of people who actually live in Leviathan, pirates who actually call Leviathan home? And then we took off from there. An easy pitch to tell a group of 6 incredible D&D streamers, make the wackiest pirate characters you can imagine. And it was very much too like we were coming off of A Crown of Candy. So I was like, tonally, let's go in the direction of shenanigans. Like high shenanigans. We've just done our like high drama intrigue season. So this is going to be lots of rootin' tootin' pirates running around, getting up to all kinds of trouble.
That's
and
awesome.
I think it's going to be a ball.
Okay, so I wanted to touch a bit about shooting during the pandemic.
Yes.
This is like the first season that you're releasing that is shot during the new reality that we all live in. So how was it like production like? The filming and all that? Is it easier? Is it like there are new complexities?
Incredible shout outs have to go out to Ebony Hardin, our producer, David Kearns, our head of production. Kearns is like a wizard and Ebony is a sorceress. That they are just like, what they are able to do is really, really special in terms of bringing all these disparate things together, because there's a tremendous amount of production that goes into everything that has to do with managing different internet qualities, getting people the right equipment that they need, because you're basically building a number of home studios for all these players. Now, with Leviathan, it was there was a lot of ease there because a lot of people are themselves professional streamers, so that was, and are familiar with this stuff. Carlos Luna, who plays as one of the players in Leviathan, actually also has come on for another remote season we're doing. Carlos is awesome to work with, has come on has jumped behind the camera to help with our production team for another season that we're shooting. Carlos is like one of the most multi-talented people I've ever worked with, like in terms of like incredible in front of the camera, incredible behind the camera. He's incredible. So we have, there's a lot of production that goes into it. So on the one hand, there's a lot of stress around all the variables of X amount of people's different internet speeds, their hardware. If something goes wrong with their equipment, it's not a quick fix because everyone is separated by a lot of distance. But on the other hand, there are things that are a lot easier because, we're doing all theater of the mind. And I'll tell you, Oren, the commute is a dream. It's a dream. Nothing better than waking up, getting a cup of coffee, and just walking 10 feet to your office, and it's like, hey, let's play some D&D.
Wow, that's a dream.
And it was interesting too. So this season was like our other side quest. This was shot in 2 days. So it's 6 episodes in 2 days, 3 episodes a day. And this is our so there's a lot of similarities between sophomore year and Leviathan in that both of these are theater of the mind. So we don't have our wonderful Rick Perry battle sets for this side quest. But there's something nice also to getting a bunch of D&D streamers like this. And especially with like pirate shenanigans, there's something nice about like this can go wherever it needs to go and kind of be whatever it needs to be. So there's a lot of freedom there, which is very, very fun. And yeah, I think it's going to be an awesome adventure. There's a lot of great parts of pirate lore that get explored here, and we learn more about Leviathan.
Then we have some questions about that.
Perfect. I love it.
I will say though that I don't think. I mean, I would have like. Rick Perry is amazing, and I would have like it would be a joy to see some like battle sets and stuff. But I will say that like for A Crown of Candy, for example, some of the most amazing episodes were the storytelling ones. Like when Lou got excommunicated, for example, I was like.
That was an intense one for sure. No, I mean, but that's the thing, is that those things always work so well in tandem. Like that's like the best parts are always the collaboration between Rick's department and then us and the cast at the table, you know, getting the story to that point where suddenly we snap into a world that's animated, like the cathedral battle following the excommunication. The fact that you go like, oh God, like, yeah, I was in this moment of like the king being excommunicated, and now suddenly the walls are real, the pews are real. Oh my God, we have to fight our way out of here. Yeah, it's very, very special when those collaborations can happen.
Yeah. By the way, this just came in the mail a few days ago.
Perfect. It's perfect.
Yeah. Okay. So I wanted to make a comparison between this season, this upcoming season, and a moment which I'll try to describe without any spoilers from A Crown of Candy. There is a moment that Ruby describes that she wants to do circus shows. Because she thinks that the people need a good laugh and like make people happy. Would you say that this season is based on the same desire to make like maybe the world a brighter place for a second?
That's a beautiful question. Well, I think that I think certainly the 7 of us in the cast that are performers can deeply relate to Ruby's decision at the end of the campaign to go and fulfill her earliest dream of going and joining the circus, because we are all of us kind of ran away and joined the circus in our own real lives. I think Ruby's choice there is also, there's really about like a completion to her arc in a really beautiful way. That partially has to do with like, you know, Candia is being ruled by Saccharina at the end of the season. The Concordant Empire is restored with the Emperor and Empress Amithar and Caramelinda. Primsy is on the throne of Lacrimore. You know, there's all this sort of stuff has happened. And Ruby is in this position that I think echoes back to what she says when she's in the ice cream temple and she asks her dad, like, how does it go back to peace after this? Like, how does it go back? after all this has happened, and I think in an interesting way, like that it is the central conflict of A Crown of Candy, more so than being this struggle against, more so than being a struggle against external forces. The story of A Crown of Candy is these external forces prompting a reckoning within the heroes of how much of themselves they are going to give over to the darkness, right? The conversation that Joran has with Liam, where he's like, you try to defend the things you love from the horrifying things in the world, and tells that story about being 14 and bashing a knight's head open. And he goes like, that's horrifying. But if I don't learn to love that, it'll destroy me. But then you see the dark side of that as well, with Ruby being like, yeah, but if you learn to love this stuff, don't you just end up perpetuating it? Isn't that in some way what happened to our enemies, is that they became so hardened by a wicked world that they just became that themselves? Where do you draw the line? How do you move in a world that requires this level of like hardenedness from you, but also not completely give into it and lose yourself? So there's something really beautiful about her choice at the end to go join the circus and just bring happiness to people, because at the end there is that thing of like, yeah, all of this fighting was hopefully to preserve a world with joy in it. And if you did all this fighting and you didn't get a world that had that light and hope and joy in it, then can you really say that you were victorious? So I think that her choice to go and join the circus and bring joy to people is like a very meaningful choice, and one that I think, yeah, everyone that has ever like become a comedian or a storyteller does deeply understand that, like, all the glory in the world of combat is one thing, but the other thing is like the direct act of like laughter and joy and harmony and care and nurturing that is hopefully the center of what we recognize a good world to be.
That's a beautiful answer. Okay, let's talk a bit about the Buccaneer Buddies. I hope I'm saying it right.
Yes, the Buccaneer Buddies. Yes.
So lots of them are familiar faces. There are some that I personally don't know. Tell us about them, about their player characters, and also what brings them together in this adventure.
Oh boy, it's a classic. So first of all, we did classic D&D adventure, which first episode is our heroes meeting for the first time. I think one or two of the characters know each other already. I think B-Dave and Abria know each other already and have a little bit of history together. But this is all about a whirlwind adventure that throws these disparate piratical heroes into the mix together. And heroes is a strong word. These are pirates. So some of them are not that heroic.
I knew it.
But you love all of them. It's really, really fun. Going down the line, we have, oh God, who do I even start with? Okay. Carlos Luna is playing Cheese, which is a nickname for Chispo Stormcrank, who is a little gnomish kid from Cannon Court, the neighborhood of Cannon Court in Leviathan, who's got a bunch of like arcane stuff and a trapper keeper and a magical yo-yo as an arcane focus. And who has basically been like scavenging stuff to learn how to be a wizard because he doesn't have access to like first class wizardly materials. So he's like trying his best to get wizardly gear together where he can, and sort of like sees the Crow's Keep and the Compass Points library and like dreams of being a wizard, a real wizard one day. Then you've got Ms. Barbarella Sarsaparilla Ganglin, aka Bob, who is a multi-class Azamar, half human, half celestial, and like half powerful celestial. I believe she's a third level lore bard and second level city cleric. very, very cool. And she is a virtuoso performer, singer at the Gold Gardens. So she works with Gardy O'Brien and the others that we've seen at the Gold Gardens already. She's an incredible performer. Then we have Myrtle, who is Abria Iyengar's character, who is a Tempest cleric. Powerful servant of Umberlee, goddess of the deeps and shipwrecks. She lives in Jetsam, which is the aquatic neighborhood. And in addition to running a shrine to the goddess of the deep, is also sort of like a artifact merchant. Like she goes into shipwrecks and finds things that are like lost in the ocean and kind of manages them. Sort of like a almost like a merfolk Ariel Ursula hybrid, because she both is like a sea witch but also has like a thing full of like thingamabobs. I got 20. Like she has, a lot of like arcane gear there. Then you've got B. Dave's character, Marseed the Typhoon, who is a bugbear gloomstalker ranger who's kind of like an enforcer for a merchant company called the Crescent Moon Trading Company, who are the scariest pirates in a way because they're just merchants. They're just like scary rich people. So he's like muscle for capitalists in Leviathan. And is like he's no joke. Marseed is like a scary dude. He has a magical trident of warning, who is a sentient weapon made of coral. Then Marisha Ray is from Rigaba, who's an Aarakocra family. She's playing Sonny Biscotto, who is a paladin of one of the first pirates that are a series of pirate demigods who were like ascended mortals, basically. So she is a paladin of Jane Wren, who is the goddess of the horizon, freedom, and adventure. So she's very much like a classical, like lawful good pirate, like the Pirate's Code.
Ooh, okay.
And her family are all worshipers of Sol, so they don't know that their daughter worships one of these pirate gods. And then Matt Mercer is playing a wrestling or rat folk ancestral path barbarian, ancestral guardian barbarian named Jack Bracow, or Unlucky Jack as he's called, who is a cursed pirate, haunted by the loss of his ship, and is playing this like cursed man, which is a very classic pirate trope. So he's like a sad and sorrowful, unlucky pirate who fights with a chunk of mast from his old ship. So he like literally, almost like Jacob Marley, like with the chains around him, he like carries the mast of his old shipwreck on him. And those are our amazing 6 Buccaneer buddies.
I can't wait to see it. That like, it's so like all of these characters sound so fully fleshed. Like they have like, yeah, I think like one of the things that I like about Matt's characters, they're always like these like even in Escape from the Bloodkeep, when he played Leland, and Leland was always like sad and like
It's great. He loves it. He's so good at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. It's a fun season with a very disparate group of characters, which makes it really, really enjoyable. I think these 6 heroes are just like where they're from and what their characters are about. They are a funky group, and it's really fun to see them all come together. It's the best.
Awesome. Now, when is this season placed in terms of like in relation to Fantasy High timeline? Is this happening before sophomore year, after, during?
This is after sophomore year. So this is after the events of sophomore year. And some of the events of sophomore year are referenced in it. The burning of the Ramble gets referenced. The fact that the Forest of the Nightmare King is no longer sealed off anymore, that gets referenced. And you can see in the World of Spire that there's a lot of these things where the actions of the bad kids have taken and the Eggford Adventuring Academy have these repercussions in the world. But the nature of the World of Spire is so inherently magical that when one problem gets fixed or solved, it tends to trigger a chain reaction of now new stuff is happening, and you can see how maybe new problems boil up from the last thing that we fixed, which in a world of constant adventure, you need that. Nothing can stay solved forever. You always need... It's that, the old Zen master saying, like, wait and see, right? Like, you fixed one thing happened that was good, and now let's see what happens as a result of that. So that's very, very exciting.
I'm curious. Okay, so we are going to move to the fan questions.
Awesome.
But before we do, I want to make a proposition. There are 3 other seasons of Dimension 20 in various states of production.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to ask you if you would reveal something based on a D20 roll.
Ooh. This is too fun of a game to pass up. What would you want me to reveal on a roll of a D20?
Just a juicy detail about the season we haven't heard anything about yet.
Hell yes. Go ahead, roll the D20. Let's let the dice decide.
Okay, so I will change the camera a bit so you can see too. That's a 3.
Good. We let the dice decide. I won't get in trouble with college humor or dropout. Great. Perfect. The dice have been in my favor today. But don't worry, there's plenty. I will say that one of the seasons that was in pre-production, so that we had that tweet a while ago saying that we were in pre-production for 4 seasons. We are now in post-production for 2 seasons.
Ooh.
And in pre-production for the others. So that is, so there's been some movement since the last time, which is very, very exciting.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so there is one question that always gets repeated every time I have like a tweet or something like that that I'm doing questions. This is our, I think, 3rd interview so far. So there's one that always comes back, and I think maybe we can like settle it once and for all. It's how dare you, Brennan?
I have to dare. There would be no story if I didn't. I make no apologies for the turmoil that I inflict on my players and by extension the audience. That's so funny.
That was like okay, so someone asked, I won't say the names because I don't have them here, but I will, for the audience, I will add them on the screen later.
Cool.
What are the effects of Ida moving the Compass Points library on the general public?
So if you look at the end of sophomore year, that was something that Ida was planning to do for all of sophomore year, and Arthur Eggfort actually gave her a gift in the final episode of sophomore year, which was a doorway that will be put into Compass Points that will connect it to a 3rd floor landing in Mordred Manor. So Compass Points actually doesn't move from Leviathan anymore because there's now a permanent portal connecting it to Mordred Manor. So there's a very weird thing that happens now where, number one, Ida kind of moved in with Fig in a weird way, where they have one, because now Compass Points and Mordred Manor are kind of one connected complex because they have this shared magical doorway, which means that you can just kind of like, I don't know, if you're in Mordred Manor and you wanted to go check out a book, you wouldn't even have to put shoes on. You could just walk up to the third floor landing with a bowl of cereal and like walk in, grab one, and walk back out. So there's a lot of closeness there. But it also means that Ida does not have to stop being a fixture within the landscape of Leviathan. She is still very much the mistress of the Compass Points. And it also means that the bad kids kind of have constant access to Leviathan. It's sort of Narnia-esque. There's like a doorway that just sort of like opens into this city full of pirates. And I have to imagine that every once in a while, a pirate in the library maybe just stumbles through and is suddenly in Elmville in the house of these bad kids, very confused about where they are, how they got there. That all being said, I think that Ida is definitely like, maybe like definitely is like working on like splitting her time between two places, because there's definitely like things in Elmville. Like there are moments where like maybe some crazy stuff is going on in Leviathan and Ida is like at a house party in Elmville with the bad kids, you know, and like is not available to like handle that at that moment. But you know, that's the constant like hero's question is like, how much of myself is available to the public at any given moment, and can I have a little slice of life for myself? But yes, so Compass Points has not moved; it is still in Leviathan.
That's awesome. So much potential for crossovers.
There you go.
Literal crossovers, actually.
Yeah, 100%, absolutely.
Okay, so people asked me about the Row and Ruction.
Yes.
So people have so many questions about this. This is like hilarious. People ask like, how do they eat in this constant fight? What is their schedule? Is there shifts? Like, are there any shifts?
So that is, of course, the answer. The way that they eat is there are shifts. Much like how, you know, a river is not the same drops of water, even though it's in the same location for a long time, the water in it changes. Similarly, that's how the Row and the Ruction works, where the fight has been going on for more than 100 years. But the people in it change a lot. There are some people who are there pretty much all the time, but they still go to sleep, they leave to eat, and it's just about having enough people there. And again, the Ruction is not eternal. Like, not everybody's up in the netting fighting with melee weapons all the time. That is sort of a special thing when that happens. The Row has been going on for a long, long time. And there are moments where it gets where like civic engagement from pirates wanes for a second, and it's like, oh man, there's only like a dozen people fighting in here right now, and there'll be a kind of in that way of like, you know, what in our world would be like a get out the vote campaign would be people going out to find pirates to come in and start brawling. Like, we need more people like to come out and get more people in there fighting. So, you know, Leviathan has the same issues with like civic engagement that any democracy has. It's just that their civic engagement involves throwing punches and, you know, getting out of the way. So yes, shifts is the answer. They fight in shifts.
Awesome. Okay, this is a good segue to a world building question that I have here. Mm-hmm. How does Leviathan act as an independent society? Do kids grow up on Leviathan? What's the life experience of a pirate's kid growing up on Leviathan?
100%. So yes, there are families who grew up in Leviathan. There are a lot of neighborhoods that are less wild and more residential. If you look at the map of Leviathan, Mast Hearth is a lot less dangerous and a lot more like families and working people. Hull Cliff is also a sort of working class residential place. So like Mast Hearth is kind of like the old neighborhood within Leviathan that is a lot more working class and has a lot of like heart and history to it. Hull Cliff as well has been around for a long time. Hull Cliff is maybe a little bit more dangerous because that's sort of like the port. Ships that actually, because there's two ways for ships to enter Leviathan. One is they come into Hull Cliff where they actually get hoisted up out of the water on huge series of ropes and get like sort of like ported in, almost like ships coming into the Death Star that like get, you know, like stored on these massive shelves in the backside of Leviathan, and then move from there into Aftward and Galliard where they do their trading and stuff like that. And a lot of the people that live in Hull Cliff also work in Poop City as servants to the wealthy aristocratic pirates who live there. Other working class neighborhoods, there's Rigaba is another neighborhood. Like a lot of the people that live in Rigaba are people that actually work the sails of Leviathan and are like honest sailors. And I think what's interesting about Leviathan is it's a pirate culture, but you know, a lot like if you look at like old Norse culture with like, we think about Vikings, but of course, like Vikings were very special. To go Viking, to like sail out on a ship and raid somewhere else is a very special thing. Like, you know, the vast majority of people living in Norse, in like Scandinavia at that time were farmers or were people that were, you know, not everybody was going out on these long ships. That's crazy, right? However, when you have these legends of like Valhalla and the idea of like this glorification of this culture, you got to think like, oh man, is it a like, because I think like it was one of those things where in the Nordic cosmology, if you died in battle, you went to Valhalla, and if you died of disease in your bed, you went to hell. You went to like the underworld. Oh. So you got to think about what that does to people psychologically, where it's like you go like, man, you're kind of your whole cult. Like if you're a farmer living in the world, is there kind of an attitude of like, well, I guess we just suck. Like, oh no, like well, that's terrible. So there's a little bit of that kind of ideology, I think, in Leviathan as well, where the majority of people are not pirates who live and grow up in Leviathan. They're probably working in the city, working as porters or carpenters, or they're doing the, you know, the sort of like everyday jobs that other people have. A lot of sailors, a lot of people that either work for Jemina Joy, keeping the city up, or working the rigging, doing other jobs like that. You know, probably like an enormous percentage of Leviathan are pirates, like, but it's probably not more than 50%. It's probably like, so the majority, like even you think about the people that we met, like Jemina Joy is a pirate, but doesn't really go out robbing ships. Gardy O'Brien is a pirate, but they are actually an impresario of this like, you know, entertainment, health, and houses of pleasure complex. Ida Eggfort is very piratical, but she's a librarian. Like, so there's these other jobs that people have. And the difference is, even though the majority of people in Leviathan are consider themselves part of pirate culture, that's not their source of income or how they support themselves. But the difference is that pirates get the most glory and respect there. So if you are living your whole life in Leviathan and you're never going out on a ship to go out on adventures and rob other ships and swing on a rope and do swashbuckling stuff, there is a little bit of an attitude probably of like, oh, you're not doing the main thing you're supposed to be doing. So I think there's probably a lot of people that grow up in Leviathan being like, you know, well, right now I'm just like sweeping the deck here in Aftward or in Poop City, but man, one day I'd love to be a real pirate. So there is that aspirational thing to being a real pirate that, you know, like you think about Bill Seacaster, who didn't live in Leviathan, but was the greatest pirate of this age. That's, I think, a thing that a lot of people that grow up in Leviathan have to reckon with emotionally, is like, man, you know, like, yeah, I grew up in the capital of piracy, but a real pirate leaves and goes and has their adventure. And how am I going to do that?
That's amazing. I mean, okay. Two fun questions. Let's start with this one. How much Gardy O'Brien can we expect to see? And will Jemina Joy play a bigger role? in this upcoming season?
So I would say to like set expectations. We see many of the Leviathan characters that we met in sophomore year. We do not see all of them, so it's not a full cameo from every single character that we met in sophomore year. There are some notable exceptions. That I think when people finish watching the side quest, they'll be like, "Yeah, it's probably good that character didn't show up again." But I can comfortably say, because you see them in the trailer, that Gardy O'Brien does show up again. And they're in several episodes because Bob, Christina Ariel's character, works at the Gold Garden. So Gardy plays a larger role in this side quest for sure.
Awesome. And our last question here, which is on everyone's mind, Brennan. Where is Chungle Down Bim?
Chungle Down Bim. I don't want to give any spoilers, but I will say this. I will let people decide how likely they think it is for them to see Chungle Down Bim, because remember, this is after the events of sophomore year. So let me ask you, Oren, as a fan of the show, after the events of sophomore year, where do you think Chungle Down Bim is, and what do you think he's up to?
I would say, based on like my perception that a god wouldn't lie, that maybe Chungle Down Bim is inside the Nightmare Forest and doesn't know how to come out.
I love that answer. Yes, we know that Chungle Down Bim is possessed of a single mission and drive in his life, which is to find Fabian Seacaster, and we know what he's going to try to do if he ever finds him. So that's what's going on with Chungle Down Bim. But I will say there is, for fans of Chungle Down Bim, there is another piece of content that I can only hint at right now, but that may be coming out sometime in the near future. So if you don't get your Chungle Down Bim fill with Pirates of Leviathan, know that there actually is different other Chungle Down Bim content on the horizon, which is insane to say. I can't believe that's what a series of nonsense words, but yes, 100%.
Wow. That's incredible, Brennan. Okay, so these were all my questions for you. Before we wrap this up, please tell everyone where they can catch Pirates of Leviathan when it comes out, and also like any other technical details. I don't know, like.
For sure. So first of all, if you want to catch Pirates of Leviathan, it's coming out September 16th. We will be premiering that episode both on dropout.tv and also premiering it live on YouTube on our channel Dimension 20. So youtube.com/Dimension20 show. After that, it's a 6-episode side quest. The other episodes will be premiering on Dropout, which is our streaming platform, college humor streaming platform. You can find that and tons of other Dimension 20 content all on dropout.tv or the Dropout app. So you'll be able to find the following episodes there. And for me, you can find me at Brennan LM on Twitter and at Brennan Lee Mulligan on Instagram for more updates about Dimension 20.
And we all love updates about Dimension 20. Brennan, thank you so much. This was great.
Well, rock and roll, man. This was so much fun. Thank you so much for talking to me again.
Thank you so much. I love you. You're my best friend.
Much love to you as well, Oren.
Hey, thanks so much for listening to this episode of Geek Peek. If you liked it, please give this video a like, as it helps it spread and reach to more people. And if you want to listen to the next one, it's right here. See you there.